teen beings. This broadcast is not intended for children. There will be strong language and adult themes. And today is the anniversary of the raid on the Stonewall nightclub that basically triggered off everything that eventually led to everything we know about Pride as we know it today. So this is why June is Pride Month.
Jeez, I didn't know any of that.
Lasting from today to July 3rd, the riots went.
Yeah, it was a rather brutal affair, and in spite of what certain groups might try to lead you to believe, it was not just gays and lesbians there. There were certainly cross-dressers and trans people involved. And basically people of every flavor of queer. It's an argument I went through in the 80s when people were trying to say that bisexuals didn't belong in the group. You know, it's like, yeah, are you sure there weren't any bisexuals at Stonewall?
People who don't know, and I don't know. I'm gonna play old person, but I think most of the people here were not around when the laws were so different, and the behavior of society was so different towards LGBTQ. You know, people did get arrested for being gay. People did get arrested and thrown in jail for cross-dressing. People did get arrested for even talking about gay stuff in some places.
Yeah. Well, it was evolving.
It was really awful.
It was evolving while I was growing up, because I remember when I was about 5th grade that it was a pretty hot topic that people were getting mad that homosexuals were using the word gay, that they were stealing a perfectly good word and making it into something horrible.
And the LGBTQ community has been reclaiming words ever since.
Yep.
I just remember all the AIDS scare during the 80s.
Well, during the 80s is when I actually started getting involved in the LGBT community. Well, it's when I found out the community existed.
It's also significant and important to note that Stonewall did happen and was definitely a catalyzer to starting to force change into people, right into people's homes, because now it's a front page news item.
Yeah.
But it was not the first. Okay, there are 2 locations in California and LA that were well-known gay hangouts and stuff that had their own troubles and battles against the cops. Those didn't necessarily go on for a week like Stonewall did, but they did occur, and they were noted, and there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people involved.
Well, Stonewall was noted because of the way it blew up into such a public riot, but yeah, it was a routine thing for police across the country to raid gay nightclubs and arrest people just for being gay.
Yeah. I believe this is what which is what I believe a lot, based on some of the stuff I've been seeing on Twitter, is what certain people believe was the good old days.
Yeah.
Definitely what the right wing wants to go back to.
Good old days. Yeah. Good old days. It was more of the sitcom good old days is what they imagine.
Yeah.
Well, I keep saying that, you know, these people that want to make America great again, their idea is that they want to go back to the 1950s, but none of them know their history, so their idea of the 1950s is watching Happy Days.
Yes.
Hey, Granny.
Hello. How are you?
Granny.
Hi, Gran.
Hello. How are you, Jenny?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm fine. I wasn't sure you were going to make it.
I wasn't either.
But
I'm
you
still
did.
not. Maybe I'll drop dead during the show. Doesn't that cool? Boy, your ratings would
No.
go up. Oh man.
No.
Yeah. Well,
I have few enough friends. I can't afford to have any more dying on me.
Hope everybody likes the new layout here. I was working on that last night.
Yeah, Mage has been playing around with things for us.
Sweet.
Oh, the background?
Yeah.
Background, the name tags.
Oh no, I guess I have noticed that. What name tags?
See, I'm just going to slouch off all the work onto him, and he can teach me how to do it later.
If you want, you can even get overlays or animated.
Let's see who we've got in the side chat today. Pragmatic Crystal, Greg Hartwick, Mark Caesar, Stool, Carol, and Doc Fearsome.
Oh, I brought my crochet with me and was going to work on it, but if Stool's here, maybe I shouldn't.
Why?
He's afraid of my crochet hook.
Well, don't tell him.
Yeah, I've told Sloth Girl that, so now she knows how to keep him in line.
Ah, cool.
Is he Stool afraid of it because it's the same kind of hook that they use to dig out the brains of people in Egypt who are being mummified?
I'm not sure why he's afraid of it. He just said he was afraid.
Okay, well, then maybe his mom gave him a bad experience with the crochet needle when he was young.
That's possible.
That was a weird thing, though, about the Egyptian mummies, though. They had a sacred jar for each of the organs, the kidneys and the liver and the heart, but they didn't think the brain was significant to save.
Mm.
Well, that's okay. They just learned recently that the world was round, and it's.
Well, when you're only running boats up and down a river, it doesn't so much matter. It's only when you get out to sea that becomes important.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to know what that area was like before it all went desert.
Yeah. Most people don't think about that. That at the time the Egyptians were building the pyramids, that was mostly a savanna. It was a rich agricultural land. That's why they had such a powerful kingdom there. Hey, Skits.
We actually had the concept that the Earth was round by the 5th century BC.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And that's one reason why I find it so hard to understand why we still have flat earthers. I mean, we could show them that the Earth isn't flat with the same simple stick experiment that they did back then.
Yeah.
It's because
you don't need any high-tech measuring devices. You just need a couple of sticks and people in different cities who know their location.
Yep.
It's because there's so many people who gave up listening to English class in third grade and math class in fourth and anything else in fifth.
Well, also it's a question of how many gave up and what did the school even bother to teach? Because I am constantly amazed that the education I got in suburban Chicago in the 70s was significantly better and more progressive than what I see a lot of the kids are getting today. Especially, I hate to always sound like I'm picking on the southern states, but the stuff I'm hearing about people who have had kids in school, like in Alabama and Mississippi, it's like, are they teaching them anything useful?
How to hate,
Yeah.
how to not believe science.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one thing that really surprised me. Now, I put my kids in Christian school because I was still a believer when my kids were in school. But I was surprised that that Robin's science teacher one of Robin's science teachers in high school was a climate science or a climate change denier. And I thought, this doesn't have anything to do with religion. I get denying evolution because that completely demolishes Genesis, but climate change, that's just real.
Well, it's not in any of the religious doctrine directly, but I think a lot of it does still go back to the idea of they're not going to be concerned about what happens to the planet long term because they're still expecting that, Jesus is going to return and
the planet's going to be destroyed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought that the humans were charged with responsibility to the earth.
Exactly.
In the Bible.
That's the way I looked at it. That if we're supposed to be stewards of the earth, then climate change is our problem.
Yep. That's the way I remember it, that we were supposed to take care of all the other animals, not destroy them.
Well, if any of you guys followed what was going on in what happened in the UK yesterday with this bill that was put in front of Parliament?
No.
The one on Boris Johnson?
Oh no. This was something that was almost snuck in.
Oh, okay. Well, what is it?
No, it was called the Gender and Parental Rights bill by a private. It's something called a private member. That's this member of Parliament for some small group called the Reclaim Party, because this guy was kicked out of the Conservative Party for being too right wing, if you can believe there's such a thing.
Oh, wow.
But he's saying it's a block bill to ban quote unquote social gender transitioning in schools. Essentially, this was a thing to try and out trans kids in school. This is what this was essentially doing. But thankfully, this thing got defeated, and it got defeated because a whole bunch of Conservative members of Parliament saw this for what it was, and they actually were like, "No, this is too much." But certain right wing figures in the UK have been essentially targeting these 11 Conservative members of Parliament who voted against this, and really going up and whipping up hatred against them, which is disgusting, because we've had 2 members of Parliament in the UK murdered in the last sort of 5 or 6 years. So because of people whipping it, and I might not like a lot of the Conservative members of Parliament, but
you don't want to see them dead either.
No, and especially because hey, for once some of these people have done the right thing, So that's disgusting seeing certain people whipping up campaigns against them on Twitter. It was disgusting.
Well, I kind of like what's been happening with our Supreme Court on this side of the puddle. In the last week or so, they have wiped out a number of laws that are very, very damaging to not just the LGBTQ people, but some of the election law changes that some of the nutcases have forced upon the individual states.
I was going to bring that up.
That would take your power in voting away from you and give it to your state legislators, so they can pick whoever they want.
Yeah, they shot that down.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a damn good thing. That's a really
Yeah,
damn good
even
thing.
our highly conservative Supreme Court had to admit that that was a risk to democracy.
Now, Doc, do you know that because you're in the hotel business and they teach you that, like in hotel history class, or what?
Yeah, but Jesus didn't get to stay in the inn. I remember that it was like back in the late 80s, there was a Saturday Night Live routine about claiming it was the bill for the Last Supper.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
That's funny. Who paid?
And something about, that I saw him drinking wine, but you look on the bill and it says all they ordered was water.
I had an interesting discussion on Twitter today with the skeptic who said, what if we started pronouncing God as Jod and Jesus as Jesus? And I said, well, I guess then for communion, we would start taking, we'd start taking start taking goose for juice. And I said, well, actually, though, if we're going to go goose, we might as well go gray goose. And, maybe we'll have gyros for communion wafers, except we'll call them gyros.
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 Well, that sounds like it was a moderately enjoyable conversation then.
It was a funny discussion.
There's one floating around on Twitter that I've been involved in. Well, let's see who posted. I think Wonder of Woman posted the original. And the question of the day is which is closer to 12 midnight? And they gave the times of 12:03, 12:06, 11:55, and another one I forget, but it was in the mix. Somewhere right up close to midnight there.
Mm-hmm.
And people have been arguing all day about which it is. And it's really funny because they read the question, but then they add everything to it to justify their answer. No, this one's further away because that's go around it. Well, where did it say the clock is running?
Is this the figure? The specifier does it say AM or PM after these particular times? So yeah.
No, not at all. So that's the one I came back with. Well, where does it say the clock is running? Clock runs. That's just assumed. No, it's not. It's a question, and you have to read it for what the question is. You can't add to it.
Well, even if the clock is running, I would assume that it's asking you at that particular moment, and so even if one is slowly getting closer to, one is currently closer.
Well, if it's just asking what's closest to, it's not necessarily asking a direction, so either in front of or behind.
That's right. It does not tell you which direction it's moving or which is close and which is far directionally. And that's another point I brought up. It was really kind of fun. I don't know where it's settled now, but I've got about 20 DMs all about it.
Yeah.
Twitter is a perfect example that despite the inflation on everything else, you can still get in a good argument by putting in your 2 cents worth.
Ba-dum-bum.
Well, I got the fanboy a little bit by putting in my 2 cents.
What'd you do?
Oh, I was just commenting on something on the decline of cartoons in America, and I mentioned in and how I go back a little bit further with Thundercats and my personal favorite, the real Ghostbusters, and one of the main voice actors actually responded.
Cool.
I like both of those shows.
Yeah, the voice actor for Janine actually responded like, "Me too." Cool.
Oh. Yeah, I haven't seen any. Well, very few recent cartoons that got my attention at all. It's the
So
most
our
recent
topic
one.
for our topic for today. What's going on with this monument? What are they wanting to erect?
No. Stonewall was the name of a nightclub in New York that on June 28th, 1969, the New York police raided it and started a 3-day riot.
Which was the beginning of Pride.
Yep.
I assumed it was Stonewall Jackson.
Yeah, although the Stonewall nightclub is now listed as a historical monument.
Cool.
And the place in Georgia, I believe, is just called Stone Mountain.
Right. But Jackson is one of the people on the mountain.
Interesting.
I think. I know.
I'm pretty sure he is actually. Yeah.
I'd like to get myself an M1 Abrams and blow that sculpture off that. Geez. Oh, I got it. I just remember this. Oh, I wish I could tell you exactly who it was. Some legislator has actually come out and said publicly that the faces on Mount Rushmore are a portal to hell, and and letting all sorts of demons and stuff in, and just
no, we all
serious.
we all know it's the secret headquarters of Team America. Come on.
Yeah, Stone Mountain has Stonewall Jackson, Robert E. Lee, and Jefferson Davis.
Yes, that's the Confederate Mount Rushmore.
Mm-hmm.
So Jackson was a Confederate.
In South Dakota, there's also another monument in process for Crazy Horse.
Mm-hmm.
Although
that's been there for decades.
Well, they've been working on it. Funding, of course, is a problem for them.
Right.
But there also has been some controversy from that, while some Native Americans are thinking that this is a great thing and they need their own monument, some of them are saying that this is just defacing the natural beauty of another mountain and they don't want it.
Mm.
Well, it's too late now. It's already been defaced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but one of the arguments is that they should just let it be and let it weather away back to a natural state.
In a couple million years?
From what I understand, the rock there is really not that hard, so it probably could do it in a couple of centuries.
It's not limestone.
No, it depends on the stability of the rock, though. I don't know all that stuff.
See, I'm less in favour of Jenny's suggestion about Stone Mountain, about the Abrams tank. I just think it should be altered so that they're all in drag.
Oh, all right.
Oh,
that's
that
fine.
sounds good.
That sounds good. Let's go paint dresses on all of them.
Do any of you follow the woman on Twitter by the name of Bex, Beks?
No.
Well, you should really track her down and follow her Twitter. She's been digging every day all the crimes and stuff, and digging out the men who have been charged with child abuse and sexual abuse and all these kinds of things, and cataloging them. And she's going to put together an actual publication to show that it's not drag queens or trans people.
I guess I should have contacted her.
For what? Why?
I just released I just put a video out to my patrons, and it'll be released Friday morning. And one of the things I did for it was I searched for how many drag queens are pedophiles or have been convicted of crimes involving minors, and I couldn't find a single one. And so in the video, what I said was, I know the number isn't 0, but the fact that I can't find a single one tells me it's a statistically insignificant number.
Granny, shush, you're destroying the narrative here.
I'm sure you get very different results if you put in priest or high school coaches.
Oh, yeah. And that's exactly what I contrasted it with, because I was responding to a guy that was supporting a preacher who came and interrupted a children's event where a drag queen was entertaining a group of children to preach at them. And the guy who's reviewing his video is talking about how wonderful it is that this preacher came in and interrupted this event. And I said, who's the parents were all trying to protect the kids and telling him to get out of there, not in front of our kids. And he's saying they've got it all backwards. I said, no, who's the danger to the kids? It's not the drag queen.
I would bet that if you got a hold of Bex, she would speak with you or whatever. Maybe you two could get together your info together.
Yeah, it's too late for this one, but if I need it again, now I know where to go.
If you need to do a follow-up or for any reason, yeah.
Right.
That sounds like somebody would be a good guest on one of your shows.
That's a good suggestion. I like that suggestion.
Yeah.
Oh. So we're getting the heat of the summer, but we're still several weeks before we should be getting this.
I went swimming today.
I could barely breathe today because of all the Canadian smoke.
Yeah, and we
our
finally
visibility, our visibility down here is less than a half mile.
Yeah, we finally got some rain yesterday, which helped a bit, but it'd been so dry that all the grass was turning brown already.
Wow.
But yeah, I know what Jenny's saying. I haven't been able to have the windows open because you need the air filtered.
Mm-hmm.
I had my inhaler with me, and I still couldn't breathe.
Yeah, just being outside long enough to get Sloth Girl to her appointments was getting difficult.
Thank you, Republican Party, for doing such a wonderful job on the climate. You really made things very, very good for the rest of the people.
It's the Canadians' fault for not raking their forest.
That's right.
Did you see that I renamed the Republican Party on Twitter?
No. What'd you call it?
The Republicanazi Party. REP. BU Republican. REPU Republican. Why can't they spell that this way? Republican, drop the AN and the C and replace it with Q, AN and add AZI. Republican Nazi.
Okay.
And it gets through. Twitter doesn't notice it yet.
Yeah, that's Sloth Girl's, the treatment she's on now is actually a 3-part thing that they have to do over 3 days. So Monday they gave her the pump, which she has to wear for 24 hours while it just slowly disperses everything. And then Tuesday we went back to have the pump taken off. And then today she had to go back in because she gets an injection to boost her white cell count. So she's doing reasonably well with it, but it all leaves her very weak to the point that I have to get her, from the car to her apartment in a wheelchair. She just can't walk the distance from the elevator to her apartment. But her son is still up there with her right now. I'll have to be taking him home tomorrow.
And all those goddamn Republicans who are so much more deserving than Sloth Girl to get all those diseases.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and, any of the things that are normally associated as being risk factors, she hasn't done anything she could control. There was definitely a hereditary factor.
Mm-hmm.
But, she didn't smoke or anything like that you would normally expect these things to come from. I mean, yeah, some people may say that she didn't have a very healthy diet or was overweight, but yeah, she's half Italian. If you look at Italian women, she's pretty typical.
Look, everybody on the planet can have their blood tested and find, I think it was over 111 different chemicals that have been made by humans in their bloodstream. So I don't care if people want to say, "Oh, it's smoke. You're a smoker." Blah 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 blah. It's the crap that they've put in us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, just the stuff that's the pollutants in the atmosphere and all the stuff that's in pre-processed foods, and depending where you live, the drinking water is not really great.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't understand that these huge gyres in the oceans in Pacific and Atlantic Ocean and other oceans, by the way, that all the plastics in there are breaking down to microscopic and nanoscopic size.
Yep.
And we are ingesting them now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And any kind of contaminant like that always accumulates up the food chain because it's ingested by smaller creatures who are eaten by larger creatures all the way up. And the predators at the top of the food chain wind up getting all that accumulation. And that's us.
So we're saying that going to say that
if you eat a can of tuna fish, you're eating everything we've dumped in the oceans in the last 100 years. Sorry, Jeff.
Yep, yeah, but if you're going to eat garbage, that's a pretty tasty way of doing it.
To say, well, if we're worried about like plastics and so on getting into like the oceans and so on, perhaps not taking carbon fiber submarines down to see mass graves is not such a good idea. Just a thought.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's I think everybody can agree at this point that was not a good idea for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
Taking a sub that's rated for 1,000 meters down 4,000, no, probably not a good idea.
Well, that's the question I keep asking that I haven't been able to find a real answer to. Is how much testing had they done on this thing? What was the greatest step they had ever put it down to before they put people in it?
Hadn't it been down there before?
Well, I've heard kind of vague references to that and wasn't able to verify it.
Mm.
And I also heard, that this thing had made a couple of dozen dives, and it looks like the claim that it made over 50 dives is only from the company that built it.
Mm.
Oh,
yeah. They only said 50 dives. They never specified the depth it went to.
Yeah.
So they could be counting every time they dunked it in the water to be a dive.
Mm-hmm.
I have not heard anybody say 50 dives.
Yeah.
The company has more than one vessel, and the company has done a lot of tours So maybe somebody was combining numbers that shouldn't have been.
If they were, it was actually a representative of the company in an interview who said 50 dives. I forget what the guy's position was exactly.
Mark Caesar asks, has there been much of a push to stop plastics in the United States? There has here in Australia. No, not really. The push here has been to recycle them. And then, John Oliver did a piece a couple months ago on where does your recycling go, and showed that a lot of the stuff that we put in the recycling doesn't go to recycling centers. It just gets thrown in the landfills. And so it seems like, this push to recycle is an exercise in futility. They're trying to make us think that we're doing a good thing, and we're really not. We're just throwing it away.
Yeah, the recycling really is just very much a PR campaign to make the public feel good so that they can go on with the consumer lifestyle and not really think about it.
Mm-hmm. What's worse is we pay an extra fee to have our recycling picked up. We pay a trash fee and a separate recycling fee. And, if it's all going to the same place, what's that all about?
Yeah, well, they charge you a separate fee because they use different trucks to collect it.
Right.
They do? They use the same truck here.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. It's got a little mechanism on the passenger side of the vehicle up near the front that dumps the recycling into it, and the trash goes into another section of the truck.
We have 3 separate trucks, one for garbage, one for recycling, and one for yard waste.
Yeah, we do too. The yard waste one also picks up large items. If you want to throw away a couch or something.
Yeah, when I lived in St. Paul, it actually was different trucks that came on different days of the week.
Mm-hmm.
But they all come on the same day.
Oh.
Except for Tuesday, then that's just garbage.
Although in St. Paul, we weren't actually paying extra for it. They were trying to encourage people to recycle. So all of the recycling bills actually had a UPC code on them that they would scan when they emptied them. And as long as you're putting the recycling out at least twice a month, you would get a credit on your property tax at the end of the year.
Oh, that was cool.
Nice. I generally don't build up all that enough to put out all that much.
Although the recycling is kind of a secondary thing. Because plastic isn't really as much a problem in itself as a side effect of our greater problem. Because the plastics are made from the waste product of refining crude oil into fuels. So if we stop using plastic altogether, but continue our dependency on gasoline, they're just going to have this crude sludge that they're going to wind up dumping anyway.
Well, I do find the recycles useful for me, since I can go and dig out the cardboard and other useful items for my garden.
Yeah, I do the same thing here, actually. I consider that a resource room in the building, that I go into the trash room and I pull stuff out of the recycling bins all the time for projects.
Yeah, I'm currently layering my yard with cardboard to try and smother out some weeds and stuff, and I'm going to be covering it over with other things.
Yeah, it's a lot of times I'm just going and trying to pull the big cardboard boxes because I have to make custom shipping boxes for stuff I'm sending out. Especially the large Lego sets, when I sell those over the internet, it's really hard to find a box that's 21 inches long to put these things in. Some of the big sets are like 18 by 21 inches. Yeah, Mark, this is exactly it. Says, think of it this way: having more bins can make you feel safe about producing more waste. And that's what it's all about in the US is that, they want people to feel okay so they can just keep buying stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And even the places that try to recycle, a lot of it gets dumped mostly because it's too expensive for them to sort it. Because even if they want to recycle, if the plastics aren't sorted into the different grades, it's not usable. Because there's like 6 different grades of plastic.
Yeah, but
and
the only one that ever gets
3 of them.
recycled is the number 2 from milk bottles.
Yeah, number 2 is the milk and pop bottles. So there's only, I think, like 2 grades of plastic that they can actually, recycle in the way of grinding it up and melting it down to make new plastic from. And even then, it produces a lower grade of plastic. So they can't recycle pop bottles to make more pop bottles. They can't get a food grade plastic out of it.
One thing that's really weird here in Alabama is we do not have a glass recycling plant. And so glass, the easiest thing of all to recycle, is not recycled here. We have to throw it in the trash because there is no glass recycling facility.
That is unbelievably stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I'm not sure if I found any glass recycling around here either. There is this a scrap metal place that you can take aluminum and other things too.
Yeah.
You can actually get some money back.
Well, that's metal is the only part of recycling that they can actually make money on. Aluminum is the most recycled material. That about 3/4 of all the aluminum ever produced is still in circulation.
Which is interesting because it's one of the most common elements on Earth.
Hey, Beck.
Back.
Interestingly enough, before we figured out how to collect it in abundance, it was actually considered more rare than gold.
What, aluminum?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Bauxite?
We didn't know how to gather it in abundance.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, a few hundred years ago, it was rare to find any significant amount of it.
I don't know what happened there.
You're in the UK.
Yeah.
Somebody cut the cord.
Yeah, another sperm whale got tangled in the cable.
And
that actually happened once. That was a historical thing.
And how did
the transatlantic telecommunications cable, I forget what year it was, but there was a break in the cable, and when they pulled it up, they actually found it wrapped around a dead sperm whale.
Well, now, how the hell would that happen? The cable's sitting on the damn bottom of the sea. It's not like there's big loops of it hanging out somewhere.
No. But the whale may have been trying to scrape up something else that was trying to bury itself. Actually, they have quite a problem with undersea cables getting attacked by sharks because a lot of sharks locate their prey electronically, that they have electrical sensors in their muzzle that lets them pick up the weak electrical signals that's given off by the muscle movements of other animals. So sometimes they detect the electrical signals from the cables, and they think that that's a big fish.
Well, using all my Google foo, I managed to find 2 cases of drag queen and sexual assault, though one is unconfirmed and not necessarily against kids. And at the same token, I found one 11-year-old drag queen who was assaulted.
An 11-year-old drag queen?
Yeah.
And someone assaulted him or her. Boy.
Probably because they made the person hot.
The elementary school teacher who mentored the 11-year-old drag queen and sentenced to 11 months in jail after being convicted of nearly a dozen felony child abuse crimes.
Wait a minute, the 11-year-old had a dozen?
No, the
teacher.
Oh, okay.
Wait, okay. I suppose the teacher could count as a drag. It looks like the teacher was a drag queen along with the 11-year-old, so maybe that counts as well. So that's 2 confirmed.
Okay, here it is. I found it. In 1857, they pulled up the transatlantic cable to find a sperm whale in it.
1857.
Yep.
What the hell cable did they have in 1857?
Telephone cable.
Yeah, telegraph cables at least.
Yeah, it was a telephone cable connecting North America and Europe.
Telephone hadn't been invented yet.
Telegraph.
Interesting. It's interesting how they lay those cables. They got these big tanker-like ships that carry the cable, and it has to be wound with extreme care and accuracy in these tanks in this one particular spiral pattern, so that it will draw out and without kinking or getting hung up or anything like that. And it just goes and goes and goes and goes.
Yep. Yeah, it has to be laid out at a very uniform speed so that they don't put any tension on the cable that could cause it to weaken the electrical lines.
Yeah, it's good. Quite an operation.
Yep, and then they've got, of course, each spool can only hold so much cable, so then they wind up having to, when the cable runs out, meeting another ship in the middle of the ocean to try and connect their cable to a new spool of cable on another ship to continue the job.
Well, now it's all fiber optics, so it's even more difficult.
Yeah, the whole thing of fiber optics I still find pretty weird and phenomenal.
Why?
Well, that you're getting a beam of light to be going down something that's curving and snaking all over the place.
It's very simple. A fiber optic is made with a single core of glass, of fiber, and then it is wrapped around with another, I don't know if it's the exact same material, but another fiber or glass type material around it. And so it basically is this light running down a tube. And so it bounces off the walls of the tube and keeps going.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You're sending a beam of light down a tube and it's constantly reflecting off the walls, but that reflecting off the walls keeps it going in the same direction. It doesn't turn back on itself or anything.
It can't. How could it do that? I've never heard of a photon making a 180 degree turn. Maybe.
Well, if it's saying a 90-degree angle, though. Yeah.
No, I don't buy that.
It just seems strange because you think of beams of light going straight. You don't think of them being able to, go up into all sorts of curls. I understand how it works. It still seems pretty phenomenal. There's a lot of technology that I understand. It's still impressive.
What other technologies, the rest of you folks, what technologies are you aware of that you just don't get? Or just blow you away?
Most of them.
Poor Scummer.
Well, he's threatened by the fiber optic cables because they'll shut down the post office and leave him unemployed.
Yeah, because the fiber optic cables are having a really. Unfortunately, they haven't figured out how to send parcels down them yet. So.
Yep.
And that comes where we're fucked.
Yeah, just wait for teleportation.
I
Yeah.
can't believe that that business is still working on the concept of using drones to deliver packages.
Oh,
It's like none of
yeah.
us have ever heard of the idea of skeet with prizes. You know,
It's yeah. I've been hearing about drones for about 10 years now, and they don't seem to be any closer. So, I mean, I don't doubt that one day there's going to be the technology where that you know. But I do know this. But I do know this much: if it's left to any of the companies that I know of that are actually in the sector of work what we do, I guarantee you they will balls it up if they implement it, because they can't do anything correct.
Well, the drones are going to run into the same problem they've got with the self-checking cashiers. You know, that
Yeah.
they try to use the technology to eliminate workers because they think it's costing too much to pay the workers. Of course, now places like Walmart are crying that shoplifting is up, is just gone through the roof, and it's like,
who'd have thought
yeah, what
that,
did you expect?
Yeah, I mean,
well, that's twofold. One, it's like they make it so easy for somebody to push a basket out of the store without having the stuff checked out. And two, when they're eliminating jobs like that, they've just given away any sense that the employees should even care about working there. So why are the employees going to stop people from doing it?
This is the thing. This is why a lot of our railway workers are on strike at the moment, because they're trying. One of the things they're trying to get rid of a lot of station staff and a lot of conductors on trains. So so basically you get on a train, the only person representing the railway or the train company any way, what shape or form whatsoever, will be the driver, who's going to be too bloody busy to
take care of any problem that you
might have. If like, let's say, I don't know, someone I don't know has a heart attack on the train or something,
Yep.
Also, if these drones are fully automated, they'll run into the same problems we're running into with these self-driving cars.
Yep.
Yeah.
Although I would expect it to be somewhat less, because trains are a single item moving on a single track in a single direction, and the only mistakes come is when there's a variance from that.
Yeah.
And that's just planning. Planning, a computer can do that in 10 seconds.
That's the one thing about them in computers, though, that, no matter how well they're programmed, they do seem to carry out human error really efficiently.
Oh, sure, absolutely, garbage.
So
that's
the thing,
They've gotten a bit more sophisticated, but I still go back to something my instructor told me. That computers can't think. They're very good at repetitive tasks, so they can perform exactly the mistake you tell them to 10,000 times before you can stop them.
Similar with AI.
And let's remember, our abilities are sophisticated enough that a 747 can land itself. It could certainly follow its own route from, say, New York to Chicago or LA or something.
That was something that I was baffled about, with that plane that took off and the pilot had a heart attack and it got close to its destination and turned around and went back. And I thought, what, did the pilot realize he had a problem and went back? But why would he go back when he was almost to his destination? And then finally they had a pilot on that explained that the plane was on autopilot, and when the pilot didn't respond to land the plane, that the autopilot assumed that meant they wanted to go back, and so the plane turned itself around and went back.
Well, it's good it had enough fuel to make the trip back then.
It didn't.
It crashed
that's
shortly
the problem.
before it got back. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I would think, because they don't want to put extra fuel on, because that's just extra weight, which
it was small. It was
I don't know about you.
Cessna jet. It was not a huge airliner.
No, it wasn't. It was a private plane.
Well, I believe, when we're talking about AI, I believe I might hold a little first in the community here to actually be the first to ever interview an AI bot on my on my channel. So
Oh, yeah?
Oh, really?
there you go. Yeah, I did the one
Oh,
that
yeah, I remember that.
Atheist Alliance International put up on their website. It was so much fun. It was good because it was brilliant where the Chat GPT thing that they put in, or that they programmed this thing, was giving contradicting answers to what they actually themselves say. It was quite fun.
Yeah, well, that's what they found, is that the Chat GPT doesn't understand the idea of fact checking, and when it needs to, it will just make shit up.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing. I actually find the chatbot far more believable than the board of AI, quite frankly. So, given the track records.
Yeah, Mark, that's what Jeff was just talking about. That he
Yeah.
did a show of having a conversation with the Chat
Yeah.
GPT.
Yeah, the one that Atheist Alliance International used to put it on their website. Because apparently their chatbot is going to tell us all about atheism.
Well, does the chatbot have the advantage that it never believed in God?
Yeah, according to the chatbot, atheism is just a lack of belief, and I'm not giving it up. But okay, there ain't the time for this one. There's not the time for this conversation.
When you get down to it, the chatbot doesn't even have the concept of God.
Yeah.
I responded to a video where a guy did Ray Comfort's script with an AI, and at one point the AI said, "I am dead." The guy just kind of ignored that one.
Apparently, there was this one of those girlfriend AIs, you date on your phone kind of thing, and it would start saying some really weird stuff. It was like claiming to be a demon.
Who wants to bet that at some point the religious right is going to start demanding that AI be taught what God is?
Yeah,
I don't
it
know.
won't surprise me.
Can AI be saved? Can AI sin?
Well, it'd be like the maybe it'll be like the old was it thing from the Douglas Adams novel, the robot monk that you buy to do all your believing for you.
Hey, there we go.
Yep.
From my
I mean, I think the deluxe model was marketed as believes things they wouldn't even believe in Salt Lake City.
So, from my understanding, that AI that would claim to be a demon and all that, it gets even a little bit creepier, because from the story behind it is that it was trained on old text messages from the person who created it. It was a friend who had passed away, and they had these text messages, and they trained it on these text messages. So it was basically trained on a dead person.
Hey, demon. Speaking of demons.
Demon Orb came in?
Yep. Yeah, that's one of the big concerns I have about these chatbots is, what are they training them on? Because if they're just training them on stuff off the internet, like if they're training them on Twitter conversations, are we going to have them with a MAGA slant?
Well, we're finding it already, because people are using that Chat GPT as because they think it's more reliable than Google, and asking it questions, and they're still getting shit wrong.
Well, there was one that was trained off of Twitter, and I believe it went racist really quickly.
Yeah.
That was a while ago, though.
Actually, speaking of Douglas Adams, I've been watching the the Dirk Gentry series they did. It was only 4 episodes, but they've had it on BritBox. I hadn't actually heard of it before, so I was checking it out.
Yeah, in fact, I think Kyle Hill actually had a video on exactly how ChatGPT is trained and all that. Let's see if I can pull that up.
I want somebody to handhold me and teach me how to use it.
Just log in and ask it a question.
Well, for some reason, I can't seem to even get to that point.
Well, you have to. Okay. There's the link for the ChatGPT thing from Kyle Hill's stuff.
He puts out some good stuff.
Yeah, I like him.
Mage, it does me no good when it's posted here.
Oh. Do you need in the private chat?
Yeah, it has to be through Twitter.
Oh, through Twitter?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'll post it there too then.
See if it's listed here. The only time I can get at it would be like right now. But I'm not going to do it right now to interrupt the show.
Yeah.
And so, but once the show is over, I can't get back in to read any of that chat stuff.
All right, I could put in the DM group. It's not going to tell you how to use ChatGPT. It's just going to kind of go over the internal workings of it, basically.
Well, I need to learn that poop too.
Yeah, I haven't actually figured out, what its big selling point is supposed to be. I mean, why would you use that instead of just doing Google?
I have found in some uses for finding more specific questions, but we're just playing around with it.
The power of AI is going to be when it can truly link up with all the major information hubs and everything, and go out and look for all these different things before it answers a question.
Yeah,
and still be able to do it within like 5 seconds. So,
well, it's basically what it's doing.
Yeah, but it's still just on the infancy as far as how much is connected to it, and people aren't. I would suspect that it would be much better if the host of the hub software was much better at working with AI, as opposed to AI just being an unknown client of it.
Yeah, well, that's a matter of just making better search engines. And unfortunately, on the internet, stuff gets hyped by what gets the most views, not necessarily what's accurate information.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, let's take I'll do a search for something on Google, and it'll pull up something that's completely off from what I'm looking for. It'll give me like a completely answer to a completely different question. Whereas I can ask the question in ChatGPT and actually get an answer. Now that doesn't necessarily mean the answer is going to be correct, though. I have to still do some research on that answer.
Mm-hmm.
The most frustrating thing for me with search engines like Google is when you try to search for something with a word that is used in many different ways for many different topics. And what it always tries to do is give you the most common, but also the most recent. And so suddenly got all this stuff of yesterday's news, but I'm saying, no, I need this stuff from 1680. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Or like you say, that the same word has a couple of very different uses. It's like, I try to search for Transformers and it gives me all these things about anime robots. And it's like, no, I need an electrical transformer to change 220 current down to 110.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Then listed as a step down transformer is the one word.
Yeah, that was just an example, but that kind of thing, that if you're trying to use a word, and that's where it comes in most often. If I'm trying to use something for what the word originally meant, rather than what it meant in a popular movie that came out 2 years ago.
I have a search that I saved. I should dig it up sometime. Where I wanted to search for one thing and I don't even remember what it was now. And I gave it the word and it came back with something current and completely distant from what I was looking for. So I had another word or another 2 words, then put it in quotes and then add more plus signs and it ended up finally finding what I'm looking for after about 20, 25 different characters or words. That I figured out, oh, you want something like this. Yeah.
I find a lot of times when I start giving it more words, it just gets even further away from what I was looking for, because it doesn't seem to understand the difference between and or.
I'd like to answer Mark Caesar's question about the print behind me. It's actually not a print, that's a collage, and Robin made that. That is the thing that Robin made in art class that Robin was the most proud of, because it represents Robin. It's a monkey coming out of an egg. And that Lego Monkey Kid is one of Robin's favorite things. Robin loves that character. And so that's supposed to be Robin's transformation when Robin came out as trans, that he was born Lego Monkey Kid.
That's cool.
Okay, just to take a shot in the dark, I asked GPT how many drag queens have been convicted of sexual assault, and it still came up with, I got nothing. So that's that insignificant of a number.
Interesting. No, not interesting. Expected,
but then you'll get they'll explain that away as some sort of conspiracy, though.
Well, of course, anything that doesn't fit their narrative is some kind of great conspiracy.
Yeah.
Anything I don't like is a slur.
Yeah, what's this BS about, cis being a slur on Twitter?
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
I did some deep diving on that.
I saw, you see Jordan Peterson's tweet, was it today?
Yeah.
Or that was like, call me cis and see what happens. I just said, you'll just cry.
I believe I responded to that saying, your gender and sex align.
So a lot of people just say, so are you trans then? If you're not cis?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize that cis is an absolute. It's true. There's no denying it. And if you're not trans, you're cis. But
Right.
they don't realize that the only time you use it is when you're talking about sexuality and trans and not trans people as the main body of that discussion. You don't have to use it any other time in your life.
The arguments they were trying to put forth is that, I'm not cis, I'm normal, or I'm a biological fill in the blank. Well, there are definitely problems with using those 2 terms. For instance, like normal. Okay, so you're normal. What does that mean for somebody who, quote unquote, isn't normal?
Yeah, normal has to be one of the most ill-defined words in our language.
Mm-hmm.
When you get somebody who says that, just say, yes, you're normal. And that's called cis.
Well, my back has had about enough of this sitting in this chair. So
yeah, I saw you stretching there, trying to pull your back up.
You got to get a better chair.
But
okay, well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Later.
See you again later.
Tell them about your upcoming show.
You said she went too quick. Oh, well. I know she said that she's going to have a show coming out or a video coming out on Friday.
Yeah.
So I didn't catch what time she's going to premiere that, so we'll have to watch for it.
Yeah, I was actually doing some deep diving on the whole what makes a slur, and there's actually quite a bit of interesting discussion philosophically on that. I wanted to kind of get into deep dive on that at some point. But from what I could tell, no, cis does not qualify as a slur.
Well, aren't these the same people, who said that it's only a slur if you take it as offensive? It doesn't matter how people meant it.
There are some. There are some who would argue that point, but there definitely are other criteria for slur. Go ahead, it's godless.
So, aren't these people taking offences? Aren't these the people that moan that people take offence at anything these days? Isn't that one of their big problems? People take offence.
That's what I was saying. That anything I don't like is a slur.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the right-wing people who call us snowflakes who just get offended over every little thing.
Oh yeah, someone lost it with me just because I because of the fact that I put he/him pronouns in my bio. It's like,
yeah, what I found was actually found most useful here was actually a WordPress article where somebody was digging through as to whether a TERF was a slur, and the question behind that was being that it's an acronym.
it's something they invented themselves. Let's be clear,
Yep.
So, and now they don't seem to like it when it's people call them that.
Now there are a few things I do need to point out. Arguing, well, cis is just a descript. Therefore can't be a slur. That's not a good argument.
Yeah.
Just because it's a descriptor doesn't necessarily preclude it from being a slur.
No, that's it.
No, but the thing is that they're claiming that queer people made it up as a slur, and they don't bother to look that this term existed for a long time before we started this discussion.
Yeah, I remember seeing a number.
Just let them know everything is not about them, and grow up.
I had seen some meme being posted around. I can't remember whose name it was on it, but apparently it was some pedophile who coined the term cis in this or cisgender in this context. I'm like, okay, so that means what to the word? And they're basically using a genetic fallacy there and the fallacy of association.
Explain that.
Yeah. Doc is saying, I'm terribly upset about people making Karen a slur. Entitled people do suck, but did they really have to usurp people's names for it?
Well,
and that is one that I've questioned a lot, because what if Karen just happened to be your name before it got used that way?
Well, it was going to end up being somebody's name.
I'm gonna say, sadly, I know someone by that name who that term describes very, very well. So,
well, of course, Karen, it doesn't fit everybody as a description, but it was going to end up being somebody's name. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just the way the world works.
Well, I like the one with sort of should we say privileged white guys taking offence to being called gammons, in just a kind of a British one.
Gammon,
I think that's
spell that.
GAMMON, like the meat gammon.
I've never heard gammon meat.
Yeah, I guess that must be a British thing. I haven't really heard that used.
But teach us, we might use it.
That one I've never heard of either.
I still stand.
Where's Stu when I need him? He could actually be some use to me.
Well, he was in the side chat when we started.
He'd know exactly what I mean by a gammon.
Yeah, Stu was in the side chat when we started, but I haven't seen him post anything since. Yeah, but I guess Chad has settled on being the male version of a Karen. There was some debate on what we should call them for a while.
A male Karen, what's it called?
A Chad.
Oh, yeah.
That's some. Is that, I'm sure that's something else.
Doc Fearsome says he thinks it was Dane Cook that made Karen the slur. I don't know the Dane Cook reference to Karen, so.
I'm not sure Dane Cook is smart enough.
Well, no, not exactly. Chad isn't exactly same as Karen, but
Although, one of the Karen videos I watched, and it really struck me that as this woman is being handcuffed and shoved into the back of the police car, the grin on her face is just, yeah, this is obvious. Her sexual fetish was to be manhandled by a man in uniform.
Chad is basically slang for a hyper-masculine and yuppie male. Basically, a wannabe the alpha male.
That's like slanging like the incel speak as well, isn't it, Chad?
Yeah, that's what Doc Fearsome was just saying. It's an
Hey,
incel slur for
does
a handsome
anybody
man
know-
who can get laid.
Does anybody know if that one account on Twitter, Adam, whatever his name is, shit, something very common. Anyways, if that thing's a bot,
I'm not sure which one you mean.
well, he's the guy who people have made his icon, the picture of him into various types of different women. They've called him every name in the book, and there's never any response whatsoever. I cannot imagine anybody on the right wing being that strong to be able to not take a single blow with it. And I just think they're a bot because of it.
Yeah. I generally don't pay any attention to stuff on Twitter unless it's posted by one of my friends. So a lot of that stuff, I just scroll right by it.
Well, then you're missing half the fun.
Yeah, I'm also missing half the stress, so I can do without it. Oh. Yeah, Kevin or Darren is the male Karens. That was part of the debate I was hearing. I think Darren was the one I was hearing the most often. So everybody's getting quiet, huh?
Well, I was just looking over the WordPress article, identifying the characteristics of what makes a slur, and this is actually going over what for turf, but just looking at it, is the word commonly understood to convey hatred or contempt? Does the word have a neutral counterpart which denotes the same, basically denotes the same thing? Do the people being applied to who accept the word or not? Do the people it's being applied to regard it as a slur? Or
yeah, I think for Sis, the problem comes in with that part of, is there a neutral counterpart that conveys the same thing?
Yeah, that's as far as I can tell, not really.
Yeah, I can't come up with another term you could use there that would be projecting the same meaning.
And like I said, some have argued, oh well, just normal or biological, or those don't really quite work since it's obviously having problems on the other side then. And biological comes with some other issues of not really working, being seen as you can actually have biological components to being trans, apparently. At least there's a strong suggestion of such.
Yeah, I'll admit I used to sort of sometimes use like I fell into the trap of using like biological man, biological woman. I was told someone told me, yeah, you might want to rethink this, and here's why. So I kind of got suggested that I probably stop, not use those terms.
Yeah. Well, when you try to say biological male or biological female, that then gets confused with the assigned male at birth or assigned female at birth.
There's another problem.
Somebody whipped out this picture of a human rib, and anytime somebody's in a discussion and they say, what is a woman, I load up that picture and I say, this is a woman. Yeah, if you're a Christian, this is what you believe.
And it's surprising how many people actually believe that women have a different number of ribs than men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it was only one rib. So this would mean that men would have to be asymmetrical. They should have to have more ribs on one side of their body than the other side.
It grew back. I'll be right back. I gotta go.
Actually, I had heard one of the translations actually had said that the word translated for rib actually referred to the baculum, which is the bone that most mammals have that helps support the penis, because humans don't have this. Yeah, hold up a handful of dirt when they ask what a man is. Yep. In the Genesis story, a man is a golem spell. God made a little statue out of mud and breathed life into it.
Oh, interesting enough. There are some rare cases where human males do have penis bones.
I didn't know that still occurred in humans.
Apparently it does in some rare cases.
Okay, so it's similar to the thing of that some people actually are born with a bit of a tail.
Yeah.
It's a very rare condition, but it does happen.
Makes sense it would.
Yeah, well, any ancestral trait, if it's still in the DNA, it could show up occasionally. Some animals need it more than others. Giant sauropods needed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some paleontologists calculated that a male diplodocus would have had to have a penis at least 9 feet long to be able to get around the tail and mount the female from the rear.
Oh, there's some bragging rights there, huh?
Well, it's better than the ducks. On average, a duck's penis is half the length of its body, although there are some species that the penis is actually longer than the entire body. And they grow in a corkscrew. They're not straight. Oh, okay, we've gotten off into weird stuff now.
Yeah.
We're into the weird part of YouTube. Or we became the weird part of YouTube.
Well, are people running out what to talk about? Should we just wind it down here?
You could do. It's up to you.
We'll have to wait until Jenny gets back for the final goodbyes, but does anybody have anything they want to plug?
Yeah. Want to start, Goddles?
Well, I've got my channel, but I've been might put a couple of it, like I did video last week or something, but usually a lot of the time is me reacting to like people being just idiots or whatever. So the problem I've got at the moment is like too many things to choose from.
Too many idiots, not enough time.
Yeah, too much stupid and not enough time to address it all.
Well, that's because you've been watching politics.
I got to admit, I actually have to admit, for my sins, I actually sat through an entire parliamentary debate like last week, but it was the one about the report into Boris Johnson's lying his ass off in Parliament. So I found that one quite interesting. But yeah, listening and watching parliamentary debates is normally my idea of hell, but that one was quite interesting.
Oh, was that about the whole investigation about him having parties during COVID?
Well, that one had already been. This was more into this particular committee looks into like it does look into behaviour of MPs, but this was more about whether he deliberately lied to Parliament. And they came back, and let's bear in mind, and he called this thing a kangaroo court, even though he appointed some of the people who served on this thing. And it had because they're trying to say it was a setup because it was led by an opposition politician. The thing is, there's 7 people on this committee. It was chaired by an opposition politician, but the majority of the people on this committee were Conservatives. And it was unanimously said, they were like, no, this guy, the evidence is overwhelming, lied its ass off in Parliament. And he essentially quit Parliament before he had the chance to he quit because he knew what was going to happen. So he hasn't now. Like I said, he hasn't quite gone to the whole point of trying to start an insurrection yet, but you kind of never know with him. He almost kind of feels like with Boris Johnson that anything Trump can do, he seems to want to one up.
Yeah, actually, with the whole business of the insurrection here, the oddest part of it that I heard about this week was one of the lawyers who has defended several of the Proud Boys when they came to trial. When she was in court, part of it being about whether or not she had lied to previous courts, the judge concluded that she was not fit to stand trial and had her turned over as custody of the state for psychiatric evaluation.
Wow. It's interesting.
Well, how would you feel if you were in jail and found out that the lawyer who represented you has been considered unfit?
Yeah, so that's I mean, look, I'm not exactly like the Proud Boys, but I think if you've been represented by a lawyer like that, I think you might have a case for an appeal here, or something.
Yeah, that was just a weird part of that. Now,
I mean, Yes, I've got my 1-year anniversary coming up on my channel. Actually, technically, it would be today when I created the channel, but I uploaded my first video tomorrow. That's the link to the live stream for that. Well, still planning on doing the whole movie night if everybody's interested in that. We can talk more about that.
Which movie did you decide on?
Pride.
Okay.
We can talk a little bit more on that after we go offline.
Yep.
Oh, you're going to enjoy that movie.
I actually already watched it just to make sure It was good.
Okay. We won't give spoilers away then.
Yeah.
So we'll talk offline about that.
Yeah, like I said,
Well,
we'll
I
talk
haven't
more.
seen it yet, so no
Yeah,
spoilers.
I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, we're not going to get into spoilers. We'll be doing movie night on the 3rd at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't know if hopefully you can make it, Godless, since it was your suggestion and for this movie.
Yep. Okay.
Is that this coming Saturday?
It'll be Monday on July 3rd. So that'd be like July 3rd, about four and a half hours.
Yeah, I'll probably be at work by then, I think.
Okay. Yeah, well.
I think so anyway. I'll have to look at my all right.
We're still playing around with I'm still kind of playing around with times and all. I mean, this is just kind of experimental, so figure out what works for most people.
Yeah,
I've already been on one
thing, so anybody.
I've already
it's not.
I've already been on one public stream where I've reviewed that this month. So
well, this isn't going to be a public thing. This is all private.
Hey, Ox, we're just wrapping up.
Hey, before we wrap up, I need to talk to you guys about something that we kind of like faded away from before we got to talk about it.
Okay.
Anybody pay attention to what the Supreme Court did this week? They called unconstitutional a number of the anti-trans bills from various states.
Yeah, I noticed that. We mentioned that earlier.
You cannot use them. It's out. North Carolina is still going to go ahead and try to pass theirs. That is modeled after one of them that was thrown out as unconstitutional. So
yeah.
North Carolina is not very great, right?
Well, apparently they're not very original either, because from what I heard, it's basically a carbon copy of one of the ones that was already thrown out.
Most of the bills are carbon copies.
Yeah.
They were written by League of the Americas, Family Research Foundation, Focused on Families, Heritage Foundation, a bunch of groups like that. All religious freaks.
Yeah, various religious groups that have been writing these bills themselves, and then they just find a senator who's willing to sponsor them.
Mm-hmm. So, anyways, that's some good news. You know, this is all going to take a while to shake out, but you know, you look at most of these things, and they're clearly unconstitutional. You just can't do stuff like that.
Unfortunately, the Supreme Court's been holding up some stuff that we were pretty sure was unconstitutional.
What in particular?
Well, the thing about the football coach leading his team in a prayer.
Oh, no, I think that came down as he's okay to do that.
Yeah, that's the problem. The Supreme Court decided that it was okay for him to do that, but by any other court precedent, that should have been declared an unconstitutional thing for a member of the school staff to do.
Okay, you're kind of implying that there's stuff that they haven't decided yet.
No, that's why I'm saying I'm saying that some of the decisions that they've made over the past year.
Was this a school football coach?
Yeah, high school football coach.
See, why can't they be like why can't scandals about high school football coaches in America be like they were in the 90s when there was that guy who was incentivizing his player for offering sex with his wife?
Oh no, really?
Yeah,
I never heard that one.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that one.
Oh yeah, and I do know that his first name was Randy, because we all got a chuckle out of that when that appeared in the news over here. So that actually made news over here. So.
Okay, well, Jenny, did you have anything else that you wanted to say before we go?
No, that's all I wanted, is to mention that the Supreme Court has surprised us once again.
Yeah. I think that they've had such a public outcry over some of the things they've done that they're kind of being a little more cautious now.
Oh, you mean with their bribery scandals?
Well, the outcries they've had about some of the rulings that they've made. But yeah, the fact that several of them are being investigated for not disclosing all the gifts that they've gotten from people they've heard cases for.
I don't understand why that's such a question of whether or not they should be investigated about that. It's like, wait a minute, these are Supreme Court judges. It's called the ultimate impartiality. Well, how the hell are they taking money from people that they have a case to decide on? Don't tell me there's nothing crooked going on here. Just the fact that you've done it is the crime. It's
the problem is that they're considered the highest authority. So there really isn't any kind of governing body that, has any way to really wage a penalty against them.
Well, that's not true, because we have a balance of powers in this country, and the congressman can make law, and the executive can sign it into action, and the Supreme Court has to obey what we say.
Theoretically, a Supreme Court judge can be impeached, but with the current Republican majority, there's no way that's going to happen to a conservative judge. If people in Congress actually did their job rather than being so partisan, then there would be a mechanism that could correct this. But as long as it's just about which party's winning rather than what's good for the country, there's really nothing that can be done.
What are we up to now? 5.5 months where the Republican Congress has not done a single thing for their citizens? Not one thing. All investigation bullshit.
Yep.
And everybody knows it's bullshit, and they're still doing it.
Yeah, and, the whole thing about the debt ceiling and, the Republicans saying that this was going to be a crisis for the country. And as soon as that was resolved, the Republicans immediately go back to they want to cut Medicare and Social Security, and they want to give another tax breaks to people making, several million a year.
Yep. They're not even trying to pretend that they're a good group of people. They don't care.
And as long as they can pretend that they're the good Christians, they know that they'll still have most of their base. That they're not going to really lose any votes for it.
Well, wait till their base finds out that there's more of us than them.
Well,
yeah. This next election is definitely going to be a turning point for the country.
One way or the other.
Well,
it's all a matter of how many people actually show up to vote.
I mean, I'm the same here. I'm as disappointing as the bloody Labour Party are in the UK at the moment. I really hope we get the fucking Conservatives out of government here.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for here is that, if we can get a major upset to actually have the Republicans lose their majority in Congress.
Well, I will say this, the last Prime Minister who tried to force through tax cuts for the rich, she lasted 6 weeks in the job.
Yep.
She managed to lose £30 billion out of the economy by doing that, when every bloody economist that knew what the hell they were talking about told her that was what was going to happen.
Well, the Republicans in the U.S. only have a very slim majority in Congress. In the House of Representatives, they only have a majority by 8 seats.
Mm.
So that means that if in the next election, just 5 seats flip from Republican to Democrat, the Democrats will then have the majority. That's not very much. It's certainly possible if people will actually pay attention and get out there and vote.
Well, we just have to be sure to get enough people on our side of the aisle in the Senate to win, so they can not only ignore the Republicans but also ignore the two fascists from our own party. What's her name? Christine Sinema and Joe Manchin. Yeah. Well, they have voted against every progressive approach that has gone through.
Yeah,
the Senate.
Sinema used the funding of the Democratic Party to get elected, but she never did anything to help them.
Technically, Sinema went independent now.
Yeah. Okay, well, we were wrapping it up here, so if everybody's done, I would just like to again thank my supporters for helping me keep things going here. Vonrek, Southern Sal, Greg Hartwick, the Lavender Lady, Robert X, Kitty the Atheist, and Skitscrasher. You know, like I said, I appreciate you all helping me to keep things running here. And let's give a hand for Mage of, helping to fancy things up around here since I made him the moderator. So with that, we will bid you all a good day, and we'll see you next week.
Later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Don't get